Hey everybody, welcome back to Cityscape Brewing. I'm Dennis Fields, and today we're talking fermenters. The difference between glass, plastic, stainless steel, everything you see, we could talk about for an eternity of what different fermenters that you can buy online, what you get in kits, and things that you can make at home. So with that, stay tuned and we'll go through it. Fermenters are a thing that gets a lot of discussion. Whether you like plastic, whether you like glass, whether you like stainless steel, what type should I have, how big should they be, can I make my own, those type of things. So we're going to start with what most brewers get started with in their kit, and that is plastic buckets. And I've made awesome beers in plastic buckets, and a lot of people still use them for all of their brewing processes. So what you might get in a starter kit, like the recommended kits that I have in the links below, is a couple of different buckets. You might get a bucket like this one that has no spigots. It comes with a lid. They are drilled for your airlock already on the top here. They have markings down the side, that kind of thing. And then you might also get a different bucket that has a spigot, which is called a bottling bucket. There are no reason why you can't have spigots on both of your buckets, but these are specifically noted for bottling because you can attach them and put a racking cane on them for bottling when you get started. So with most kits, you get two buckets. One is your primary fermenter, the other one is a bottling bucket. Plastic is great in the fact that it's versatile, they're food grade, they clean up pretty well, and they are easy to screw drill different holes in and screw spigots on, that kind of thing. They do get a little bit of wear and tear over time, and one of the reasons I kind of switched away from using plastic buckets is because if you use, after a long period of time using them, you can scratch the inside of them. So as long as you're being careful, they should last a very long time. And in fact, both of these fermenters are fine. But over time, also these white buckets too, you'll start seeing staining. You'll do several batches in there and they'll stain and they just won't come out no matter how long you soak them in PBW. Also, if you're doing things like souring and things, plastic buckets may not be the best option for you because I don't know if I want to sour in something that has a little bit more of a porous surface. And so plastic had its time and place for me when I get started, and I did that for years. They're also the cheapest option of fermenters, and so you can actually make your own fermenter for very cheap. Even Lowe's or Home Depot sells food-grade buckets that you can buy at like $6, $7 a piece. Usually those don't come with lids. You need to buy those lids, and then you need to drill the holes, put airlocks and bungs and things in them, buy spigots, which you can buy 2 or 4 pack for under $10 on Amazon. And those are a cheap option, especially if you want to do a lot of beer. The downside with going to a Lowe's or Home Depot and just buying a food grade bucket is they're about 5 gallons. And they're hard to buy a 6-gallon or 6.5-gallon bucket that's food grade without going to more of a brewery or brewing bucket anyway. And it's not that much more expensive when you start adding in the cost of spigots and lids and all that kind of stuff. And so the reason you want a bucket that's more than 5 gallons is because we're trying to get to a 5-gallon batch of beer that we're going to package at the end of the day. So a lot of times we start with 5.5 gallons, or maybe you're putting closer to 6 gallons in a bucket. You also need that extra space on the top for your fermentation process to happen, your krausen gets happening. And if it's really close to the top, you could get where your bucket lid actually blows off, or you'll need a blow off tube because you're not leaving a whole lot of room for that krausen to build up on the top. So you need that extra space in your buckets, even if the fact is you're only doing literally 5 gallons of beer. The other benefit to buying a bucket, say from like a home supply store or even one on Amazon that has, it's meant for brewing, is they have marker indications on the side of them. So like this bucket here, you can very clearly see the steps on it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gallons. It goes all the way up to 5, but then you can tell that this one will hold a lot more than 5 gallons all the way up into the lid. And so a lot of times when I was brewing, especially in these buckets, I would put 5.5 gallons in this fermenter. And by the time I racked off of the primary into the secondary, maybe did some dry hopping, I actually got 5 gallons into kegs or bottles at the end of the day. And that's what I was shooting for, because why go through this whole process if you're gonna end up with 4 gallons of beer, right? So I put a couple links in the description for these buckets that have the markings on the side, that be easy, food grade, that kind of thing. They come with the lids, and they're already pre-drilled for your airlock at the top. They're also, some of them won't have the spigots on the side, but again, those are only like a couple of bucks, so you could drill in holes for a spigot on the bottom. My suggestion is to actually drill a hole a little bit higher. Like this one came pre-drilled, but the spigot actually hits when it sits away, so I actually have to kind of store it sideways a little bit like this, and I have to tilt it. So drill that hole upwards a little bit before you screw that on. But they're easy modifying. And then I think what happens with most homebrewers after they get done with these style buckets is they move to a glass fermenter. And there's pros and cons for glass as well. Glass breaks, right? And you've seen all the horror stories of people using glass. Most people start out with this style of glass fermenter, which has the skinnier neck on it, and this one's a 6.5 gallon size as well, because I didn't want to go with 5 for the same reasons I just talked about with the plastic buckets. But I don't like how narrow this is. It's hard to clean. You have to get these brushes or even those L-shaped ones to clean around where the krausen builds up, or let them soak overnight with PBW. And it's a lot of work to clean these things. They're heavy, they break, they're hard to clean, but there is a positive to glass, and that is that it's not as porous as plastic. I definitely wouldn't mind doing any type of souring and stuff inside of glass. They seem to last over time as long as you're not breaking them or dropping them and that kind of thing. You can buy harnesses for them, you can buy those little handles that go over the top to help you carry them. So there are positives to glass, but I personally would never buy another one of this style of glass fermenters. If anyone's watched most of my videos, you'll notice that I have transitioned all of mine to the big mouth bubblers in particular. And so not necessarily just a spraying, but anything that has a larger mouth. This one I have a harness on, so it's easier for me to carry. Yeah, they're a little heavier than a bucket, but they're also a little bit more durable in that fact too. The harness actually helps kind of create a space on the bottom to set it down, so you're not setting it on concrete or something hard and like crack it. And the one thing I like about these style is, like the buckets, I can reach my whole hand inside, clean this thing out, and I also can put things in the secondary, in dry hopping, in fruit additions, that kind of thing, and put them in a big sack, and then easily pull that stuff out before I rack to a keg. So I use these paint strainer bags all the time. They are silicone kind of feeling, and you can tie them up. You can put a whole bunch of hops in here. I use like 6 pounds of fruit sometimes for my sours. I tie it up, throw it right in there for my secondary, and then I can easily pull that out and rack off the top of it when I'm ready to package my beer at the end of the day. And so they also make this style in plastic. And so you can also buy this style of fermenter in glass and plastic with spigots if you like that. This version doesn't happen to have a spigot on it, but they do sell one that has a spigot. So if that's something that you want on yours, there's a variety of options. The other thing I like about some of the even plastic fermenters that are clear is, unlike the buckets, you can kind of see what's going on inside of your fermenter when the action's happening, right? So you can tell when your krausen's falling. You can tell some of the activity by just peeking at it and seeing what's happening on the top of your fermenter. And sometimes it gets caked with krausen too, but it's easy to tell after a while that the krausen has dropped, even if there's no airlock activity. Sometimes there'll be a nice thick krausen on the top. So it kind of gives you a little bit of preview where I don't really necessarily want to crack the lid of a bucket to find out what's going on. And last but not least, a lot of people as you get more involved with brewing, especially 1, 2 years, 3 years into brewing, they start looking at all these really fancy fermenters. And so they have ones with legs on them and stainless steel and all different kinds of different versions that in reality, a regular home brewer doesn't really need. So there's conical fermenters, there's all these different ones, and people start getting into pumps and all that kind of thing. But I have one philosophy. It's cheap, easy, and good. And the cheapest, easiest thing for me is to stick with these big mouth bubblers. I like the glass ones, or you can even use plastic, or even use buckets for that matter. I will say, if you were gonna go to stainless steel, I probably wouldn't go on and buy one with like the legs and stuff all attached to it and necessary pumps and all that kind of thing. But I would probably go to is just your standard bucket style stainless steel fermenter. And you can buy those for roughly about $100 or so. So they are twice as expensive as some of these other fermenters that we're talking about, which are probably the $50, $60 range. but they probably will last a lot longer. They don't break like glass do, they don't scratch like plastic does, and so there's benefits to both. But unlike the bucket, you can't also see really what's going on until you start cracking the lid on that thing too. And so there are pros and cons of every single fermenter. What I like to say to people is do what you like to do and just make sure that you're doing it right. If you're using plastic, don't use SOS pads to clean out the inside and make sure you're soaking them really good afterwards. I recommend glass, but then you may like stainless steel. You might get a fermenter with the stainless steel one with the legs on it and get some pumps and things. I personally, I've been brewing for over 10 years and I like easy, right? I like one vessel. I like no pumps because I can use gravity for free, and I like to keep it cheap, easy, and simple. And I make amazing beer out of using that. And I've never had and felt a need to go to some stainless steel version with pumps and all that kind of thing. So everybody's gonna have their own take on what's a good fermenter for themselves. I'm giving you some pros and cons each. If I had to have a choice, I would probably pick between two versions. I'd pick between the one I already have, which is this one here, which is a glass big mouth bubbler. I might even buy one with a spigot on it. Definitely a harness. Or I'd probably go with something like an Anvil stainless steel fermenter. And I'm gonna put links in the description below for all of my kind of recommended levels, everything from buckets all the way down to stainless steel for those who are interested in again, these aren't gonna be the real expensive things, these are gonna be the ones that are gonna get the job done, gonna have the volume that you need in them, and are gonna be cheap and easy. So if you have any questions, leave them in the video description below. Happy to help out. And as always, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It really helps me out and helps notify you when I upload new videos. So with that, happy brewing.